AI, and I think we probably will. But it'll take some time for us to all figure that out. And then to Larry's point, there are going to be some massive winners here. Some companies that not only get the unit economic right, but get the productivity value right. And so those companies are going to grow at rates that we've never seen before in B2B software. And that is going to consume a lot of that infrastructure that's being built out right now. And so the bull case is if we have enough of those, then we'll be just fine.
I've got to drop off, guys. I have another call, but I really have loved this. Thank you all for inviting me.
Thanks for joining us, man. See you.
See you, man.
Thank you.
So I'll be brief, but I actually disagree. There is in terms of the infrastructure part, the infrastructure will always get repurposed. That's what happened to the internet. There was a lot of lines that got dropped, to continue that actually story, which I do agree with. We are in like that 95, 98 kind of era, or at least it feels that way, especially with laying down the ground lines. But all that infrastructure, got usurped pretty quickly, even after 2008. And required an incredible amount of more expansion as a result of it. So I can tell you from the deals that we've been working on or the things that I've been, involved in, it's like storage units. You can't actually, yes, some of the GPUs and all that, or the technology might be, aged, but the use of that, that infrastructure can be repurposed pretty quickly. And will be found to be, used in a different capacity. So, are we building too much now? Perhaps, maybe not, but it will never go to waste. And if anything, we've been looking at cooling, like how do you deal with cooling and how do you do it? I mean, Google's talking about putting stuff in space, right? Just because of the use of, trying to use solar plus obviously they didn't talk about this, but also, it's cold in space. So it makes it a lot easier to, have an efficient architecture result of it. But the other half, just to and then please feel free to respond, is I always think of the J curve, right? We've seen this historically all the time. There's always going to be a trough before a significant rise, even from any kind of hyped era, which really kind of spreads the sort of the utilization and the desire and the interest and the introspection. But being in AI, you have to be in AI a few times and other kind of trendy things that they always keep coming back. And I think Keith or Larry was mentioning this, right? It's not like a bust, but it's more of a trough that we will continue to find new avenues to leverage a lot of that. So when you think about these things, think about the J curve, and from an investment standpoint in CRM to kind of bring things back. I think for companies who are in CRM and things, companies who are leveraging or trying to buy CRM, you still, as an enterprise company, you still have to figure out, how do you engage with the customer? How do you continue to grow and how do you continue to retain them? And if AI fits into that narrative, that's great. But if you can find other ways to do it to complement that, then you shouldn't just throw everything out or throw the baby out with the bathwater. So those are my two kind of comments here to kind of finalize things.
Awesome. Perfect timing. First of all, me and the venerable Paul Greenberg have a non-disclaimer for what will there be no shooting. Keith, that was all Keith here with the shooting stuff. I'm just kidding. All right. This has been a great conversation. As you can see, there's a lot of folks saying as so. So we're going to give you guys just maybe the last 30 seconds, a minute to wrap things up with whatever you want to say. And once again, thanks to all four of you actually for making this happen. This has been a really great conversation. So whoever wants to go with their parting shot, go for it.
All right. Well, here's my quick 10 seconds. Want to thank both of you. It's always a pleasure to join you on these shows. And I will just say, I think this is probably the most exciting time to be building right now, because no matter what happens, no matter how much dark fiber or dark GPUs we have out in the future for a while, you're right, Anant, none of that matters, because we're going to build a lot of very, very exciting companies in ways that were never before possible in CX and CRM, and couldn't be more excited to be part of it.
Yeah, I'll build on that to say I have never been so excited to be building stuff right now, because the technology lets me solve problems that I've wanted to solve for decades, and were just super hard and I didn't know how to do, and I know how to do them now. And that means building incredible things for users that solve real problems for people and businesses. And it's just amazing. I personally am entirely reinvigorated in investing in software now, because we can make such a big difference now. And again, problems that I've wanted to solve for decades, I'm solving now. It's amazing, and it's a fantastic time for that.
See, this is why I'm excited to be on panels like this. Brent and Paul, you guys are always doing great. You got to see these investors, and I share the same sentiment. You love people who appreciate the opportunity to build and try things, and that is the tantamount entrepreneur or founder that you're always looking for, right? And of course they have to be able to sell, but aside from that point, that's what's exciting about right now. And if you're not taking, and I'm seeing a lot of people say get let it go or laid off, because we're for whatever variety of reasons, whether it's economic or AI related. But I'm seeing so many people who are not taking advantage of being where they are to leverage the resources to learn, these new technologies, while collecting a six-figure salary potentially. And even if you're not collecting a six-figure salary, the resources are just plentiful, as they've always been. Go take advantage of them, because today, just as Larry and Scott had mentioned, and Paul, Keith had mentioned before, it is an interesting and amazing time to build, and you do not have to be like a remarkable coder to do it. And people, the more times people can actually, who have ideas, who want to make an impact in the world or the business world, or whatever the case may be in the personal community, you can do it, right? We're close. We're that close that it's going to be amazing. And I think our kids are going to be dragging and dropping stuff and saving the world. So, and I hope that's truly the case.
Wow. What a way to start this whole what is CRM in 2026. This has been great. And before we let you guys go, Paul, we need to invite them to something come up in March, right?
Yeah. So here's the deal, guys. Actually, this will make it really easy. We'd love you to reproduce this at IRL 2026, March 11th and 12th in Atlanta at the Atlanta Tech Village at Buckhead, as we did last year. We had that. We would really like you guys put aside the time. We're planning on having an investor panel. So if you guys, we are now reaching out to you as the future investor panel for the show.
And you'll get an official save the date too.
Right. So
I just marked my calendar.
All right.
Awesome.
And Larry, I have something specific I need to deliver to you that I finally I got from Europe.
Wow. That
I'm
sounds
excited.
Good. Now you know he's coming. All right. All right. So Scott, Larry, Anand, and of course Keith Tier, who we didn't really want to have involved 3 years ago, but we are ecstatic that he joined us this time around. Thanks again for doing this. This is great. And one of the things about getting old is you know who the right people to bring together and have the kind of conversation that we just had. So really appreciate you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Likewise.
Thank you.
You guys are awesome.
Let you go, but thanks so much. Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Did you have something else to say, Paul? Or
I'm just going to do a quick shout out to LinkedIn user. I figured out who he is.
okay.
Tariq S. And he's a guy. He's an enterprise guy over at ServiceNow.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
I wanted to give a name to him, right? So Tariq S. Thank you for all your comments, and everybody, thank you for your interactions with us today too.
See you guys.
We'll see you shortly.
Thank you.
Next one coming up.
All right. So before we bring on our analyst group, hey, I can't promise anything there, Vinny. I'm hoping that that we don't have that replay itself.
Just plan on risking it, Vinny. That's all you have to do. Plan on risking it.
All right. First, a couple of thoughts on the first battle before we bring on the new crew.
Yeah, I mean, I defer to these people when it comes to those kind of decisions and thinking. I understand it, and actually, one of the things I found most interesting was Scott saying Norwest Ventures is now looking at seed rounds, which is not normally venture capital behavior, right? I thought that was almost the singularly most interesting, I'll call it change in behavior, right, of an institution. And I get it too. To Larry's point, and to Anand's point too, they still have to pretty much do the fundamentals regardless of what they've got going. And And there's no question about that one way or the other. There's certain things, look, regardless of all of this, when you are thinking of investing, and again, I defer to what they said rather than what I'm saying. You still have to run a company, right? So, and you can't just have great technology or cool technology or AI. And again, that's why I quibbled on the statement of 500 million equals unicorn, because, ultimately a unicorn is a company that actually is successful despite what people thought it might be, right? And continues to be successful, not gets money. Now, somebody's betting on them to Keith's point, becoming a unicorn. And, but that's the bets these guys all take, but I don't think there's a single one of them that's ignoring hardcore fundamentals, when it comes to the investments coming up in 2026. So,
all right, let's go ahead and bring our second crew in, because we want to make sure we stay kind of on time for the big six. So joining us right now, Rebecca Wedeman. Wait a minute, where's Patrick at? Where's Patrick?
Oh, he had another commitment, but he'll be on.
He's on another analyst call.
He's doing a briefing.
All right, keeping it moving with Mr. Michael Fawcett.
There's the man. Woohoo.
Hey.
And the man who took over for the man, Shashi Balamkanda.
Hey, everyone.
It is. Whoa. Hey, Mike.
All right.
I got to talk to you afterwards.
That sounds like the principal.
No, it actually literally.
Am I in trouble again?
No, I found something that said you're leaving Autodesk.
Oh,
wow,
yeah. Well, that's timely.
that just finalized, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 2003 to now. I mean,
All right, folks. I don't know how much of that you caught, but anybody who has some thoughts on what they just heard, let her rip.
I got lots of thoughts, but I'm not sure they're useful. But
So, a couple of interesting things jumped out at me. First, Keith talking about sort of less user interface for CRM, and I think that's right on as we think about who's investing in UI today when conversation is really good.
I didn't mean to laugh right when you were talking. I just saw this comment and it just caught me off guard.
That's
how rude.
Tariq, I might withdraw what I said.
All right, sorry to just interrupt that.
No, it's okay. But no, I mean, I think the less user interface was kind of an interesting perspective. The other thing I thought was interesting, that two things that Larry said. One, the idea that one of the new things anyway in AI is that individuals are purchasing the software for themselves, which sounded strangely to me like the early days of Salesforce, when I could swipe a credit card and buy software for my team. So if we talk about cycles, maybe that's one that's coming around. And then I think the other one that everybody kind of alluded to is there are going to be winners and losers here. And we're not all completely agreed on where those folks kind of sit. I'm biased to think that they're going to be the folks that deliver value that win. But I think the important thing that they all highlighted is sort of hubris and brilliance are not equally distributed. Right?
What a statement. That's like the catchphrase of the day so far.
Looking at investments, I think that's going to be interesting to see sort of how people pull back the emperor's new clothes in determining what's really out there, not in just terms of tech, but in terms of ability to go to market, which was another key point they made as well.
Yep. I'm stuck on that catchphrase, so that's really great.
Yeah, that was good. I don't have one quite that good, but
give it a try, Mike.
I'll think about it. Maybe I'll come up with something. Now, there are a couple things that jumped out to me, and one of them won't surprise any of you because I've been on this soapbox since probably 2014 or so, and that is that we keep talking about increasing sales productivity. We seem to keep ignoring the fact that buyers don't buy the same way they bought before. So you can have people do the same that they've always been doing faster and more, and it ain't going to fix the problem. You got to sell differently. And unfortunately, that's a part of the problem with the sales tech stack in general, is that it's been focused on increasing productivity and not fixing the way we sell. So and I think AI, and there's some things that we're working on now that can, and there are certainly some places where you're starting to see some movements. I mean, I saw Tony was on here, 180 Ops from their sales ops, rev ops AI platform is one of those. They're starting to add, predictions and predictive capabilities in so that we can start to think ahead. And you're also starting to see things that are built around behavior analysis, real-time behavioral analysis, so you can respond in a way that meets that buyer where they are. So those things, I think that's an important one. And then the other thing that really jumped out, and it's back to this UI comment, and I completely agree that I think the UI is becoming less and less of a thing, but I'd phrase it slightly differently. And I've been thinking about this a lot. And actually, this sort of popped in my head when I was at Dreamforce this year, and I wrote a few things about it. And that is, I think we're actually moving into a world where we're focused around the workflow and not focused around the applications anymore. And I think that was the problem all along, that we focused around these application silos, and all that did was create data silos, and it created organizational silos. And if you start to focus around just getting the work done from end to end, and you have all these different component parts, some are human, some are digital, that makes a lot more sense to me when I think about the way I'm going to use these apps. And even down to little things like Salesforce talking about, Slack as a new OS for the enterprise. The apps like that can be, because I can work with people and agents and tools all in one place, and that makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that's the way we need to start to think about it. I think.
Yeah, it was a great discussion, and I think both Rebecca and Michael have some good points. But one thing that I'm seeing, and maybe you can call it as digital Darwinism, is people having a FOMO, right? They're fearing that everything is evolving so fast that their business cannot adapt, and it might become irrelevant. And that is the reason why you're seeing investments in different phases. Now, one thing that the previous panel was talking about is all this investment in infrastructure. What is going to happen to that, right? There are two things. The big players are all trying to say, like, let's prepare. We have money. Let's prepare for 5 to 10 years down the line. That's why a lot of investment in infrastructure. I saw a company called Vulture, which I have no connection with, but they're buying an infrastructure in Ohio. The only thing that I know about them is they're growing very fast. So you're looking at companies that are 3 years old and already more than 100 million in ARR. Whereas, like, it took 10 years for other companies to grow so fast. So there are two sides of the market. One is, I'm doing well right now. Why should I change? So the focus on customer experience, which a lot of people brought up, is not going to change because of AI. Like, if you're already taking care of your customers well, just increase the speed at which you're going to make it better for them. Today, I called a doctor's office for an appointment. Average hold time is 4 minutes. Come on, it's 2025, right? So businesses like that will change very fast, and AI will help them do that.
Yeah. To your point, to all your points, really, to some degree, it occurs to me that, one of the things, and it actually goes to things Brent was talking about several years ago, too. One of the things that's driven all this AI, everything going on with AI, up to and including agentic AI, is actually the conversational side of it all, right? And it became a lot simpler, a lot more human. And it goes to a point Mike made, which is essentially convenience drives all of this when it comes to the end user, right? One way or the other. It's like, basically, I remember in the earliest days, even before all of this was hitting, Microsoft had dynamic CRM. They had bought Skype. They had integrated. They wanted to integrate Skype into the service part, dynamic service. And the way they did it was, you'd click on a phone number, it would take you out of the app and into Skype, which was ridiculous. And nobody wants that. They wanted to do what Google already did at that point, which was you click on the call and it calls right from there. And the key was right from there, right? And it goes to the point of the reason I think people are starting to talk about UI going away, invisible, is because you're having a conversation, and that's the other side with the UI, and that's the other side that makes it important, and the UI is with the AI rather, and it's taking care of whatever it is you're taking care of, all in a single place, right? And that's where the UI becomes less important, other than it might be pretty, So to me, that's a huge leap. I remember years ago, Thunderhead was talking about we're moving from campaigns to conversations. We're actually getting to the point where conversations are not just marketing, they're productivity too, right? And that's a very big leap from where we were. And to me, if I'm looking future forward on CRM, CX, that's where the experience becomes profoundly different, because it's getting there through familiarity on the consumer side, right? Too, because meaning everyone I know is using something, at this point, ChatGPT, whatever. It's typically ChatGPT, but they're familiar with that, and that's once you get there, you're talking about dramatic shift.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I can tell the application to go do something versus having to actually go find it and do it myself, why would I change?
Exactly.
Why would I do it differently, right? One of the other things that I thought was interesting too, out of that conversation around MCP, and I've been watching that really closely, because that's obviously MCP is really important when you start talking about agentic AI. You have to, the agents have to be able to use tools, which means you have to be able to integrate them. But it does have a lot of challenges. But then all of a sudden, I don't know if you've noticed over the last 6 months, you're starting to see companies talk a lot about, we have to have an agentic orchestration platform. Yeah, you absolutely do. And a part of that is, in fact, this capability to connect to tools dynamically. If an agent's going to use a single tool, cool. They want to use a different tool, why can't it just know and connect? So I think you're going to see everything kind of move into that platform orchestration layer, which is absolutely essential, I think, for a multi-agent system.
I wanted to get your opinion on this. Today we have revenue intelligence, kind of marketing data, and then we have customer intelligence. I'm seeing more and more that all of these are going to come together. And if companies just stick to their silo, they're going to go out of business, because everybody is encroaching on the other's platform. Now, you brought up MCP, Michael. Over the weekend, I was actually trying to get some hands-on experience with the vibe coding and things like that. And I found very surprisingly that WordPress has some...
I'm sorry, Shashi.
So WordPress has already gotten some MCP connections and hooks, which tells me that my thought that websites will really change a lot in the next few years is coming true, which means that if you have a huge product database, you're going to have an MCP server that's going to answer questions that agents will put, right? Which means that your website doesn't have to look as beautiful as your $500,000 is going to redesign is going to bring it, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're not really, if you think about sending an agent out to research something for you, you're not going to the website, and the agent doesn't care how it looks. Right. So in the end, that all of that's going to have to shift. I mean, it's a longer timeline than today, but it is happening, and it is going to continue to evolve.
And you look at Salesforce and others talking about spinning up dynamic commerce websites based on the individual query of the customer, right? Or what I know about the customer. I mean, we're not that far away from that. Yeah. There's some tech debt that needs to move for that to happen, but it's certainly out there.
I mean, honestly, Rebecca, that talks to exactly what I was saying about buying and selling too, right? Because I buy in a completely different way. I research now, even completely different from what I did 2 years ago. I ask Perplexity, or I ask, Gemini or whatever, and it goes and brings me information. And that's a big shift, I think, from the mindset of Google, which used to be, I go to Google to find a way to find an answer, versus I go to Perplexity to find the answer. And that's a really different thing. And I think in this case, that is in fact the part of that evolution is now we're going to start to offer tools that do work in real time, that do actually analyze behavior patterns and analyze, sentiment and all those things in real time, and create experiences that are built around the behaviors, not built around a static workflow that, we defined 6 years ago as a customer journey map that no customer ever followed.
You mean customers don't follow all the journey maps the vendors actually make for them?
It is a terrible thing,
Oh, my
but you know,
God.
those customers, you can never control them. They just do whatever the hell they want. I don't know.
You know what? To that point, there is a company out there whose name I don't know if I'm allowed to say or not, but I won't. But at the same time, what it's doing is agentic. It's creating an agentic platform for customer journey orchestration.
Yep, dynamic
Right?
journeys. That's it.
Yeah, it's there. It's actually literally exists, and it's got a technology that needs some work, but at the same time, it will be exactly that.
Interesting point about what Rebecca said. Most visitors today don't expect to go to the navigation menu, click the navigation, go to a sub page and do that. And I've seen some companies implement enterprise search very well, where you're talking to a AI bot on your website that is customizing the journey for you. Also wanted to ask one question, like among the AI top technology that's out there, there is one that is focused exclusively on customers and everybody else is focused on enterprise. Do you agree with that? Like if you look at ChatGPT, everybody who goes to ChatGPT expects that in their work. But most of the top companies, Microsoft, Google, Anthropic, Amazon, all of them are focused on how to provide the tools for the business. And they're forced to do some consumer-facing interfaces simply because of ChatGPT. What do you think?
This is talking headless.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think that you know those tools, they're still continuing to evolve, and I know, you know, recently OpenAI, ChatGPT, they made some improvements that start to make that seem more like an enterprise platform as well. And I think that over time, it's like the technology converges. Some of these things we think of as tools, agents aren't tools. Agents are digital workers, in my opinion. But some of the things underneath that are tools, and they're important. And they will move into an enterprise framework over time, because when you get to questions about governance and ethics and security and all those things, you've got to have that level of platform. And I think of it as it's got to be governance by design, right? You can't add the governance layer 6 months after you implemented the agents, because then you're going to try to figure out how you look in pinstripes, you know, because you're going to be in trouble. And I think that's got to shift.
I thought you meant they were going to be on the Yankees.
Well, it could be that too. I don't know.
Even worse.
They
Even
seem
worse.
similar to me, but what do I know?
All right. Well, I think that's a proper breaking point. Whenever either he bring up the Yankees or if I bring up the Rams, that usually means we better stop because we'll
Time to
keep
shift.
going. Yeah. All right. So I think all three of you are going to be back after what we call the Big Six panel, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And will Patrick be done with his call, or will he?
Let me check with his virtual assistant. He should be.
Oh, I thought he had a human EA.
Not anymore. He has an agent.
No, now he's gone so far. He's got a chief of staff now.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys, we're gonna put you back into the green room. Sorry, we don't have any refreshments for you, but you know,
Stale Cronuts have been there for 11 years. So
the stale Corona. It's been there ever since like Mike left Autonaut.
Exactly.
You left Autodesk.
Holy
Celebration of
Corona.
the party for when you left.
All right, guys, we will see you in a bit.
All right.
I got so many things open I can't even see. There's Rebecca. Like so many. And I think we have all but one of our guests already in the green room. So
Okay.
we're going to stay on time with everything. So we could go ahead and like kind of set the stage. And let me see, did I just see somebody show up? Let me see. I'm just trying to make sure. Yeah, we're still waiting for one of our guests. But you know what? Let's keep it going because we're almost there. It's almost time anyway. So why don't we just start to bring up? Let me bring my slides back because I had a couple of things. Let's see. Do I want to start there? Do I want to start there? I'll just start here. All right. So we just had the investor portion, which I think was awesome. That was really some good stuff. Great way to set the day up. But now we're heading into our 2 p.m. Eastern the big six panel is what we call, because as you can see, there are 6 people listed there. Thank God Adam and Brett are here, because they had some follicle stuff, because we're all kind of follically challenged. So good to see some.
You speak for yourself.
But anyway, so why don't we just do this? We started doing this, as we said a little earlier, the what if or what is CRM in series for 2023, but we did it back in December of 2022. So this marks the 4th year of us doing this. And I actually brought a little, I was digging into our archives. It's quite the dig, by the way. We got a lot of archives at this point.
16 years of a show, man.
Yeah, so I was digging in and I found our, like the first group of people. And this is how I know I've come a long way in terms of my graphic artist skills. This was the promo for the first. Okay, I mean, just like torsos floating around in the middle of. I mean, it's pretty bad, quite honestly. But we started with 4 folks. We started with 1 panel, 4 folks on that panel. We got Rob Tarkov. I was blanking for a name. Bob Tarkov. At the time, he was at Oracle. Neha Bajwa. At the time, she was at Microsoft. John Tashik. At the time, he was at Salesforce. And guess what? He's still there, so he'll be joining us as well. And Sugar Clint. I gotta say Sugar Clint. I can't just say Clint. Sugar Clint Oram was here, and he was one of the founders of Sugar CRM. This is how we started. And as we've been telling you over the course of the first hour or so, we've gone from 1 panel of 4 people to like 4 panels of way more than 4 people. As a matter of fact, we're going to have 6 people on this next one. So still keeping an eye out for, you know what? I might need to send Marco.
Yeah.
He might have gotten the confusion StreamYard thing. Yeah. So I'm going to play a clip from the first panel when we actually asked them, what is CRM going to be, in your opinion? So let me get rid of this. And I think only 1 person is going to be on. Oh, we'll see. I'm just going to play it. So here's what is 23. And remember, this was December of 22, which was right after OpenAI came out with ChatGPT. So this
1 month later.
It was like 3 weeks later. Yeah. So this is what the answers were to that question.
Has become a sales manager tool. We want to get back, and I think it will start becoming the place where data gets created and sorted for customer data across sales, marketing, and service, automation. AI gets really put to use for the employees and the agents to do the next best thing, next best action.
22 during the pandemic and 21 was all about point solutions that started emerging surrounding customer systems. End-to-end suites and end-to-end flows, particularly by industry, really be the thing that people focus on.
All of these niche AI solutions that have developed in the CRM space over the last 5 to 10 years, they're going to be part of that consolidation as well. And AI is just more than ever going to be so embedded into everything we're doing.
That really meant to be this. So I'm just
3 pillars: intelligence, AI, efficiency is part of that, and automation. When you put all those things together, you have better relationships. I'm not a fan of the storytelling. I think ChatGPT is storytelling at scale. CRM is much more about the direct engagement. Storytelling is a one-to-many type of metaphor. Engagement is much more one-to-one, and we want to get back to that.
So that was 2022 talking about 2023. And AI was already a key component, even though I think when we were talking or listening to Clint, he was talking about the more traditional kind of aspects of AI. But it was really interesting to take a quick look back, and to hear how much AI was already part of the conversation.
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember just the impact it had so utterly quickly. I mean, it just sort of showed up, right? It was like, never heard of OpenAI and ChatGPT. 3 weeks later, that's all I heard of. right? And it was just astounding at the speed. And don't you remember there was some sort of, I forget how they posed it, was like downloads, I think, or something. It was like 20 million a day or something. I mean, just some number.
It was like 100 million the first week or something like that.
It was gigantic. It was like this gigantic just onrush of people wanting to do something with it, and it triggered everything we now see.
Yeah. So we're a full 3 years into the, I just started calling it the ChatGPT era just because they were the first, when it comes to what we're talking about now with AI. But once again, we didn't even hear the term generative.
No.
We definitely didn't hear the term agentic. So,
wasn't there.
Exactly. So 3 years in, now we're ready to find out what 2026 has in store for CRM. And we have all of our panelists here now. And I think I'm going to do it in order of number of appearances. So should we start with the new people first? Or do you want to go the other way?
No, let's go the other way.
All right. There is only one person because, Rob Tarkoff has moved on. So he's not at Oracle any longer. But he's at Seismic. Is that how you say that? Or Seismic?
Seismic.
So he was neck and neck with Mr. Tashik, but since he moved on, guess what? Mr. John Tashik, our 4-year hero for this.
You survived the island. Congratulations.
All right. Well, hey, what an honor. Thank you.
No, thank you, because to do this 4 years in a row, we have to wonder, are you all right? I mean,
it's hard for us to even think of we've done it 4 years.
We wouldn't even be here 4 years in a row if we weren't actually hosting it, but we're glad you're here.
Well, I've never left, so I've just been waiting for it to come on.
All right, so I think we have 2 people that have been here. Wait a minute, I think we got 3.
Who've been here twice?
That have been here, I think, twice. I know Anthony Leeper from SAP was here last year.
Right.
Anthony, good to see you again.
Hey, sir, how are you?
Doing well. Good to see you both, Brent and Paul. And again, good to see our colleagues from Salesforce. We'll call them colleagues at this point on the call.
Thanks for doing that, Anthony. By the way, you both look really comfortable. Anthony, you really look comfortable in that chair. I mean, that.
I like the comment about storytelling in your earlier video. When I was a child, people used to tell me stories in chairs like this. Now it's my turn.
Absolutely fabulous. All right, thanks to you. All right, I think we have another 2-time vet. I like to call him the smoothest dude in CRM. Mr. Terrence Cesare is here again.
And start people's sentences and finish them both.
Thank you. Love and hugs to both of you. And I'm honored to be part, and I'll call it the tribe of CRM.
The CRM tribe.
We'll go with it.
Better yet, a tribe called CRM. How about that?
Oh, wow.
Honored to be here with John and Anthony.
And you know what? Brent did not realize that he made a reference to a British TV show when he said absolutely fabulous.
You're certainly right about that. I had no idea I did that, but
I knew Anthony would pick it up.
I'll take the credit. All right, but we have one more tribe member. Wait a minute, 2 more tribe members. We got a returning tribe member first, Adam Justice from Adobe.
Yeah, he is the man himself.
Hey, what's up, folks? Yeah, it's great to be back. I feel like the kid who just keeps auditing the class from the cool professors. I'll keep coming as long as you'll have me.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us, making time. And we have 2 new timers, although they're not new to us, but they're new to this. We'll start with Mr. Brett Weigel.
The man himself, too.
How's it going? So I'm sitting 4 doors down from Tarkov's prior office. I tried to get in so I could do it from there. And we would, have that very similitude, but the door's locked. So anyway,
break it down. Break it down, no problem.
So.
Well, we're glad that you could join us from that room. So that's
Absolutely.
Good. There's only one thing you can't do. You can't talk about the 49ers, though.
Well, no, I wouldn't even try to, especially with how well the Rams are doing. So
we were doing great until last week, but I digress. Let's keep it moving. All right, our final panelist, but not least, and he is a first timer as well with Brett. I met this gentleman at a previous spot, but now he's at Microsoft. Marco Castellana. Hey, man.
Whoa.
How are you doing?
We got the distance shot.
You look like you're in a command center or
That's
something.
right.
Yeah, I can't make this thing zoom any closer to me, I guess. This is how it's going to have to be.
Well, your voice carries, so that's
what matters.
All right. So as the title says, we're starting this thing off. It's completely unscripted. We really appreciate you guys coming in and kind of having fun with us while we talk about the future of CRM. We start with a simple question. What is CRM in 2026 to each of you? And we'll see what happens, after we get through that round, where we go. It's completely organic. So who wants to be the first to answer the question? What is CRM in 2026?
Shall I have a go as the grandfather?
Wow, the
Wow.
Wow, we got the godfather and the grandfather here. Okay.
Go for it.
All right, Anthony.
Go for it, Grandpa.
Look, for me, it's the delivery of AI-driven intelligent experiences. And what AI needs to do is, I'm a music guy, right? I play music, I write music, and all the rest of it. I think it's around the intelligent orchestration of that lead to long-term value journey of our customers. It needs to be individualized. It needs to flatten the enterprise, and it needs to deliver the right experiences. It isn't all going to be in chat. It's going to be a blending of the right type of information in the right type of modeled experience at the time it needs to be delivered in the journey.
All right, who's up next?
I think we got it. I got it. Or Marco.
I'll take a stab at it. So here I am now at Microsoft, and what CRM is becoming now, at least for us, is more integrated into other tools. CRM has traditionally been in its kind of island. Here at Microsoft, it's Dynamics, and it kind of lives in its little spot, and then your email tools over there, and your messaging tools over here, and your meetings are over there. Well, it's becoming more and more integrated through the use of AI. And so, you have a meeting with a customer, the transcript feeds right into your CRM, and the summary of that conversation goes in there and that kind of stuff. But in 2026, we're really going to move from just language stuff, from pure summarization and those kinds of things, into a place where these agents are going to start doing stuff for you. They're going to start filling out your RFPs. They're going to start actually making meeting appointments for you. And that kind of stuff. So I think that's what we're going to see in the coming year.
Okay. Who's next? Next up, John.
Yeah, I can go. I agree in part with Marco, because I think that the agents will not be passive as they are now. Like where you're enacting an agent, it's doing a workflow and it's doing something for you off a passive database. It's going to be much more active. They're going to be more like a person. Part of and it's going to start coming soon. I would disagree on like it's being, as part of the side. It's actually going to be more central. That the more that the agents are effective, the more that the CRM tool is going to be used and more effective. And because people still need a place to go in order to do the things that are CRM, and it's not CRM. It's not just like scheduling a calendar or doing a contact management. It's huge company workflows. So they're going to be more effective. It's going to be CRM kind of as we know it. The agentic part will be a little bit more invisible to us. So that will be used a lot more. And then the agents will start being treated more as a human part of the workforce.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that AI agents and sort of the migration to agentic workflows, it really helps with a huge range of things. I mean, I agree with John and Marco, certainly on agents in a way erase boundaries between apps. We've had sales, service, marketing, but then even more broadly, and of course, Oracle is in these realms, things like supply chain management, finance. You have a problem from a service perspective, it's about billing. Well, where does that really live? It's over in ERP or in some finance app. So as we have these different apps, different app owners, these have been divisions that have been hard to navigate within most enterprises. And I think AI agents become not only more active in the process, more proactive, but they also enable, sort of the removal of boundaries, right? They can interface with each other. even across vendors selection sets. You look at technologies like A2A and MCP. We're seeing a lot of collaborative things where the agent team, if you will, is actually multi-vendor, and that's a huge unlock for an enterprise to be able to get work done more efficiently with a much more convenient and set of factors involved.
Okay,
two of you left.
I'll jump in, Terrence. Sure. I feel like we're at this such an interesting inflection point right now. It's so tempting to look backwards as much as forwards. I think right now, a couple of things that I've heard recently where there's just so many enterprises, so many companies looking to kind of exit what they've been calling the POC hell, right? Where they feel like they're trying to address this kind of, dude, where's my flying car kind of sentiment that might be kind of coming down from the top levels of their management. And I think in 2026, I agree with the things that have been said. I think that we will see a settling where people are starting to identify those high value use cases, the places where they're actually going to be able to go from concept to execution in the workflows to observed value. And that will drum up kind of a new kind of energy around the validity of the movement towards these agentic workflows and the ways that our panelists have described where CRM is headed. I think it's going to be a big year. Our research that we've seen recently shows that there's still so much pent up expectation that within the next 18 months, the vast majority of these workflows are going to be transformed by agentic. But a lot of people are still wondering, they're wondering how they're going to get there. And I think the fact that we're starting to see some real meaningful high value use cases show up and be validated with with success stories, et cetera, is going to be a pretty big unlock in 2026.
All right, I'll close it out. I can't disagree with everything that's been said. I'll go a slightly different path, right? So we've been, and I've been at fault of this. We've been so fascinated with the technology. I think we go back to the basics of what does it do for the humans and how does it drive value, aka ROI. And I think everyone's more than done with the tempest in the teapot that happened this year with the MIT report and the withdrawal of it and the little argument. And for the folks who are not completely in this game, they're just like, what does it actually do for me? And I love all the conversations around it. It goes end to end. It goes across systems. The one other part I'll say is that just the disruption of channels, the voice and image and other ways of interacting in addition to classical workflow, which is another word I love. I think we go back to the basics, like what does it do for the customer and how does it prove its business value?
So one of the things that we've kind of seen thematically from the investor panel with the analyst conversations too is, and I'm oversimplifying here deliberately, on the front end, we're seeing, kind of conversational AI gaining mass acceptance. On the back end is where agentic AI is working, meaning it's working within the flows, and to most of you, it's invisible to anyone actually seeing it. But the interesting thing to me that led to was a conversation around the idea of they called it an invisible UI, or but basically a new a form of interacting that goes to the most convenient way someone could probably do this, as long as they are part of kind of the mainstreaming of the Gen AI kind of platforms. So how do you guys, what do you see? Because you guys are you're carrying a big enterprise applications here, and and maybe to the point of some of the investors, they're not going to be called applications anymore, but whatever. But the real interesting thing to me is how are your interfacing going to start working when you're dealing with huge companies with enormous numbers of people who are utilizing applications with, or utilizing capabilities with very complex workflows, and at the same time are looking for it to be, most effectively convenient for them to do all the things they need to do as close to one place as possible without all the jump from here to jump from there to jump to there. How do you see that for the enterprise companies?
Hey, Paul, Marco says he has a follow-up, so I'm going to toss it right to him.
I do. You segued to me nicely, Paul. Now, what is happening right now, and this is happening both in business and on the consumer side, is this move towards general purpose agents. For us, that's M365 Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, is a general purpose agent that you can use for all kinds of different things. On the consumer side, you see that with Manus, Perplexity, ChatGPT is kind of moving in that direction as well, where you use this one agent to do all kinds of different things. On the consumer side, I use it to rent a car, and I use it to get me a hotel room, and this, that, and the other thing. And so for us, a lot of it is using the power of this general purpose agent and moving a lot of those CRM functions to where you are. So for us, that is Copilot. It also means a lot of the CRM gets exposed in Outlook itself. So you're in Outlook, you're working with a customer, and your CRM stuff is right in there, like literally on the thread that you're on right now. Or if you're in Teams where we have a lot of meetings as well. It's messaging, but it's also meetings. And we're putting the CRM there. So, to your point, it's true. This explosion of agents actually makes it a little bit difficult if you have a different endpoint for every little thing that you have to do. But the rise of the general purpose agents is helping us solve that.
Okay.
I'll jump in earlier this time. At least for me, that I think some of the old truisms, like my theme throughout this will be some of the old truisms, right? So this is enterprise, it's the big leagues. And what we saw for us this year, and we think it'll carry over, is the governance. How many agents do I have? Who are all the models that I have? Who are all the versions that are running? What data is running through them? So everyone's excited about the feature, and then all the security and the governance folks are coming around and going, we've had a bunch of experiments. Let's have a handle on it. Let's actually drive to things. And just, at least for me, just continuing to drive that relentless focus on what are we doing? What business purpose does it drive? And of course, the rules of integration still hold, right? Like all the protocols, we're inventing new ones, but we've known for a while you have to integrate with everything else that everyone's working with. We've known that you have to be where the user is. But for me, that governance and that oversight for this sprawl is how, like, it's the both. It's the and. I need all these models, and I need to know what they're doing and when they're running, and did they fall over or not.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that. That's very clear. Totally right, Terrence. I think that if you're looking at general purpose agents, though, and governance, there's a big gap because general purpose agents in an enterprise are going to be probabilistic. They're going to be like the human errors, are going to be introduced into the enterprise. And what is really essential for governance is the deterministic capabilities, the workflows that already exist. And Terrence, you at ServiceNow would know that, completely. Yep. There's got to be a baseline of workflows that are unmitigable. I can't say that now, but you can't change them. They shouldn't be changed. They may be changed later for sometimes efficiency or growth or scale, but that's a little bit later than 2026. But the probabilistic ones, like doing a summary and there are too many errors in there, and that forces the governance to slow down those projects. So if you actually unpack that MIT study, it's really about these agents doing probabilistic things versus the deterministic things that make the enterprise run. And I think that we're all talking about the same goal here from different angles, but generally what's going to happen is that the software is going to be more used, and that's how you're going to get the governance, and new capabilities are going to be created for the consoles to look inside and get the insight to how those agents are running, how they're connecting, and how they're integrating. And it's a huge opportunity for the applications market to do that, not just the LLM providers or the foundation models.
Yeah, I would agree with John just in terms of that sort of challenge of how do I figure out how the power of the non-deterministic stuff, the flexibility that an agent brings, mixes with deterministic things that have to be because of either regulatory reasons or because of the enterprise's own rule set, right? I think at Oracle, we recognized some of these challenges earlier on, and we baked a lot of security and governance into our infrastructure level, in fact. So before we're even building an application, it's already there at a basic level, and we're managing those things regardless of whether it's a frontier model or, you know, open source one that's a little more efficient and smaller. But as we play with this, you know, we're experimenting with techniques that are very jobs to be done oriented, where you might have a policy driven set of decisions that need to be made against rules set by a government, let's say, benefit that you're entitled to. Well, there's like a law that says what you're entitled to, right? So those documents need to be sort of respected, and, you know, the agent needs to execute against that rule deterministically, but then fall back to non-deterministic when someone needs help around the edges, right? So those things have to be sort of fluid, and it might be an application of multiple agents. It might be an application of static workflows with code, with agents that are kind of managing and humanizing the process. But I think the key is to just identify those areas of value for the customers and then create the right set of Legos to be able to construct the solutions that really work. And I think that's how you get the ROI while you remain safe.
I think we have to understand the journey that we're painting for our customers. And to be honest, guys, how far a lot of them are away from that. You know, we've been saying for the last 10, 15 years, it's all about the data, and the data has to be clean, because then you'll create all these amazing reports, and many of our customers are still suffering with that. So when we start talking about regulatory compliance, is an account on all your systems? Do the IDs work together? The opportunity for AI to get it wrong is what's breaking the customer's trust. So I think in a lot of cases, we're going to see in 26 still a huge amount of humans in the loop, but that AI is simplifying the task. Where that experience gets delivered, again, is not as simple as just putting it in email, because I have to make sure that what's going in email, the person who's about to see it is allowed to see it, and they don't forward it to somebody who can't see it. So actually, we're talking about very, very intricate levels of complexity, compliance, and rules that it's down to us to try and solve, and then I think help the customers start to step through that journey. And it does start with clean data, a challenge that we all know our customers still have today, right? It's a big problem out there. And open it up to AI, it can make a lot of mistakes very quickly.
Hey, Paul, I'll weigh in and kind of appreciate the points of view. I'll weigh in based on your original question. I feel like with all of these advancements, you had a question about, like, how are you going to wrap AI around it? How do you make it accessible and useful to the people that are using our tools, whether they exist within the enterprise, or maybe they're even the end consumer. And I think that there's absolutely, and well positioned, a place for the general purpose agent. And then there's also so many opportunities for the fit for purpose agent that will show up. If I think about someone sitting down in front of Adobe tools, in some cases, it makes sense for them to be able to ask general questions and be sort of Sherpa'd through a particular workflow. In other cases, we'll have agents just kind of settle into those workflows, and then where we have novel technology or opportunities for people to access data sets or identify audience segments, maybe we actually just build in a conversational net new workflow in existing UI. So we're looking at Adobe, we're looking at all the opportunities. Do we need to develop brand new products around AI, around the UI required for someone to maximize the utility of certain agents? Or do those agents actually, do they effectively function in existing workflows where they're more transparent or less obvious to the user? I think it is beholden on us to kind of imagine all of those scenarios to bring the utility of these tools to our customers.
Okay. All right. I mean, we were did that little clip about what you guys were talking about, not you guys specifically, except for John, what you guys were talking about moving into 23 from 22. We're 3 years into this now, and it feels like there's layers more of complexity going on here than even was before. Even with your customers having the opportunity to experiment and try a number of these new tools out, is it getting harder for them to keep up with how things are progressing, even as they are progressing faster than they ever had? Are the conversations keeping up with what your customers and what you as vendors are doing? Or do you find yourself having to do things that you didn't have to do in the past in terms of keeping them up to date, keeping them up to speed on everything, how everything applies to what they're trying to do? It feels like as far as everybody is coming through years, not just the vendors, but also your customers, it almost feels like they're still kind of getting left behind a little bit. What are you guys hearing from your customers about just their state of being able to use the things that you guys are developing?
I know Marco raised his hand in the chat, but I can start.
Okay.
I think that's the most awesome question, because it's yes to all your, the answer is yes. Yeah, everything's moving faster. Everything is doing exactly what you said, but we're taking it from a technology point of view first, and we have to look at it from the humanistic point of view too, and that's the root of your question. Yeah, the technology has always moved fast. It's kind of moving in a different way now, but it's always moved fast, and it's always moved a little bit faster than almost all the customers can handle. It's moving even faster now, but the general idea is that yes, we have to explain to customers what we're doing, and every vendor has to do the same thing. But ultimately, the question comes back to us is, why isn't your agent making us more efficient? And we're trying to explain something completely different, which is, how can your agent make you more at scale? And that leads into a different kind of conversation about your data architectures, your metadata, your semantic layers, and your trust layers. And that goes into the technology. But fundamentally, we have to get to the philosophy of why agents are important. It's not to make your company super small and cut out the whole workforce. There's efficiency gains in some cases. I'm not saying that's an absolute. It's to operate your company at scale and to do things it could never do before, not to do the same things faster. Because if your company was a mess organizationally before, it's going to be a bigger mess faster with agents. So it's like rapidly and fundamentally changing how you're looking at your business to refine it so that you're thinking about scale versus just reduce it to efficiency.
Marco, you want to know on this one?
Yeah, I mean, the number one question that I'm getting from customers now is, well, I mean, Brett touched on it, is governance. That's a thing now. So at this point, I meet with a lot of our customers, and there's a vanguard of customers. There's like a top 1% that are doing some crazy stuff, right? I saw some cool stuff that BMW is doing just recently that they built to monitor their cars and stuff like that. But the vast majority of customers, they do now have some number of agents in production, say double-digit number of agents in production. They can see that it's going to go to hundreds and then thousands, then tens of thousands. They're like, oh my word, how do I govern these things? How do I give these agents identity? How do I do evaluation? Because you can't just do unit tests, because as one of the other folks said earlier, these things are non-deterministic or semi-non-deterministic. You can't just do unit tests like you used to do, right? So you have to pioneer these kind of new evaluation methods to discover, are these things actually working? And that changes from where we came from. The era of AI was question answering to where we're going, where the AI is actually doing something. So you can't just evaluate what it says anymore. You have to evaluate what it does.
So I think the advantage we have, I mean, first of all, if we go back, I've been in this industry too long, as you probably know, Paul. Every evolution of CRM, the customers, the majority still try to re-implement their old processes in the new tool. So they're just rebuilding the old stuff again. I think what we have as a potential with AI is, because AI can be consistently learning and adjusting itself, it may actually be the golden arrow that helps our customers move bit by bit to that new way of working and that new opportunity that then exists. Because I think that's the biggest challenge. Whether we want to say it or not, we've come up with marvelous products over the last 30 years, but fundamentally, many of our customers haven't changed their process. So maybe AI and the way it can be more considered with how it evolves may be something we need to think of as vendors to help customers on that journey.
Yeah, some of you probably know that I'm mostly focused on the service pillar of CRM, or at least I have been historically. But, as we talk to customers about this transformation, and I would say in a way, AI is more deeply penetrated for longer in service than some of the other pillars, simply because there was a previous generation of chatbots and voice bots that were somewhat effective, but maybe more effective now in the age of Gen AI and agentic. One of the transformations is really, what do people actually do in a contact center? And similar to some of our our panel has said today, it is an opportunity to start to rethink experiences and figure out different touch points of how the AI and the humans play with each other. And one of the things that we're realizing is that if you take an analytics first approach, right, which is really around creating a picture of, okay, customers have service journeys. What are the entry points and the outcomes? What path are they actually following? And as you follow that time sequence, which is not always sequential, it branches, it doubles back on itself. Where is AI implicated in providing value, or maybe, could be improved? We want our users to go from taking escalations from customers where it didn't go well manually to actually feeding better automation and content and fixing the semantic layer, right? And to kind of work those items instead of actually taking the engagements live. And we think that, so there is like kind of a shift at that upper tier human agent and then the supervisor manager level, where you have these new experiences, which are analytics first, but I'm actually kind of diving into healing and solving customer journeys in real time through tweaking the dials, tweaking the automation, right? Working with the agents, the AI agents at their disposal. And I think that's really exciting. It's sort of an opportunity to reimagine what this looks like for our customers.
All right.
I'll chime in.
Okay.
I love everything that's been said, right? Now I even go back to the deterministic and probabilistic conversation earlier. I take that a step further and say I'm learning to correct myself, and I've had a customer really be very appreciative when I said, don't do everything with AI. You have to figure out where it complements. I really appreciated that by you, John. But the one part I'll slightly disagree is the tech is always moving fast, but right now it's one of those hockey sticks, and it is a bit of a jump. And to Anand's point on working with customers, like that first transformation, we are putting the product team in there, not consulting, to prove out that value with some of these things that Brett just said, which is you may have an agent try to do something and it doesn't quite work. What does it look like that now the tier one is an AI agent and now you're escalating to a human agent? And that business process of, it's not tier one to tier two, it's not one human to another, it's now AI, right? So the things rhyme, but the type of work actually changes, and that reimagining of how you do it is needed. Like, that's why it's hard. But it isn't just AI, it's all the messy things we know. Your data's got to be ready. You have to know your business process. You have to know why escalations happen. And then you have to tie in the systems.
So I want to sort of build on things you said, but change the direction. I'm going more toward governance and constraint, but from the front end of it, so to speak. One thing I've noticed, I'm working with all the various conversational AI platforms, especially Claude in particular, and I've noticed one thing about all of them: they're by default lazy, right? They're all lazy, everyone, because what they will do will give you an answer, kind of in a Boolean fuzzy logic way, which is, yeah, things like this do this. until you say that I didn't ask you about things like this. I need things specifically to this, whatever this is. That is inherent with every one of them. And I've literally tested it in every one. I've literally run through, let's call it some relaxed testing, but some actual conscious testing. Now, that's great in a consumer environment. Okay, no big deal. Because what is it? You got me the wrong restaurant, or you didn't build this thing right for me. But in an enterprise world, it's not okay. I mean, I can speak to companies years ago that, let's say this: if you're a pharmaceutical company and somebody's asking you for information about medication for a disease, and the thing, well, there's medication like this. Because don't forget one thing that's happening now too, and I don't know how I can't give you the numbers, but I do know in general from conversations and from data that I have seen, people are starting to trust Gen AI to do things for them, and actually trust it. I mean, where you see it is in the shopping for me things, recommendations, things like that. You trust that over the expert reviews, right? They're just saying, okay, it's doing all that research already, at least in the mind of people. You're dealing in an enterprise environment where one mistake and you violated some major regulation and the company's hit hard, right? So you can't afford lazy interaction with AI in any way. And on the back end, of course, you're dealing. I mean, to me, whenever I look at agentic AI, I think of self-learning microservices. Really, I mean, but you can't afford those mistakes. And now I all know RAG and hallucination. I'm not talking about that. I'm actually talking about that's really on the front end. It's more from the human side on how you craft a prompt and things like that. How do you even deal with that when you're dealing with thousands of employees potentially using thousands of millions maybe of interactions with your products at all times? How do you handle that, or how do you even handle? Is that being thought about? How do you think about it if it is?
Paul, maybe I'll ask this on behalf of the panel just to clarify your question. How do we handle an employee leveraging AI on behalf of the brand or the company?
Yeah, I'm not talking about them being consumers. I'm talking about them working, and where you're going to get, let's say, a customer query to your AI and your employee who is using AI to come and answer it or try to figure it out. But one way or the other, well, here, I'll give you a specific example and tell me if this will resonate a little better. There was a company many years ago that integrated Siebel and Documentum, right? And it was for pharmaceutical companies and it created audit trails, because the one thing every single customer service agent was potentially had a problem with is telling the customer calling in with a query the wrong thing, right? And it would generate a document which would then be sent out. So they were trying to build in all the safeguards around that. AI, because of that inherent laziness, and it's relative as opposed to absolute in terms of the laziness, actually creates those problems all the time, right? It's not hallucinations. It's just they're giving you a generic answer based on what it's looking at. So the question is, how do you design the constraints? How do you train the people? How do you do the things you need to do to prevent problems that will come in an enterprise, regulatory problems or governance issues?
I'll take a crack at it, and probably get it wrong, but I think it's the answer is some of the things we've said already, which is all due respect, but that's where a general purpose agent is completely inappropriate. And it still comes down to the business process. And then it comes down to what I just said around AI. You shouldn't try to do everything with AI. So one example that comes to mind for me is a customer's running a fairly elaborate insurance claim process, specialty insurance claim process, that all the people involved are it could be impactful to them. Like you said, a drug issue or something. And if you come in with I will build an agent or agents that'll do everything, that's probably the wrong thing. But if you break it down into a series of steps, which is what we always do, and then you figure out which part's the AI agent, and it does some amazing things, and pre-processes, figures out who's everybody, who are the parties, who's the claimant, and so on, who's representing who, and then the adjuster and the people who are focused actually get to do the best work, and everyone gets better out of the process, right? And we talk about the parts of the process that people really hated, scrolling up and down a long email over and over, and like literally pasting in who is the claimant, who is the attorneys representing. That was the non-value adding part. But making the adjudication, making the judgment, those are the things that you don't start to do immediately, but you get tremendous lift off of getting that answer faster.
All right, Brett, I think you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I think, sort of at a simple level, and I totally agree with what Terrence just said. I think it's a little bit about taking, what's the job of this specific agent? How does it work with other agents or other applications or human users of applications? Getting really specific about that. But really, when you look inside of an agent, it's instructions, which is prompting, but it's also tools. And Paul, like you were suggesting with the microservices comment and rethinking that, right? Tools become the way that platforms get exposed to agents, and agents know how to use them and what to use them for specifically. And they have defined input and output, right? So we can be pretty constrained, and we can have some general purpose tools, like what's the knowledge graph for a problem space around finance, as an example. We have an ERP product, so we can do that, right? But then, it can also be very granular. When you use this API to a third party, what is it specifically going to do for you? And then the agent can go discover that and use it. So I think that creates some constraints, and it lets you test specific things rather than kind of, just swimming in a general purpose swimming pool.
Oh, thanks. I guess the camera's on me. I anticipate myself struggling with part of this answer, but the core part, I don't think I will. And it goes to what Terrence had said also. If you have your agentic platform, your trust part of the platform inside your platform, as opposed to like an appendage on it, like a general purpose one, that you've given permission to access and answer questions. If the trust layer is inside, it's part of the stack, you can actually put your policy in there, and that would be a guardrail, so that you will, even though you're giving like a lot of freedom to the employees who are answering questions or running an agent themselves, there will be guardrails, toxicity checks, the guardrails about the policies themselves that can be checked, and then the agent will have a handoff to a human if there's a flag that says, oh, this might be violating some kind of thing. So that's an extra guardrail. These are already happening. They'll be in 2026 throughout. Where the possibility of problems comes is if you give people a lot of freedom, they'll take it, and they'll, because that's kind of drives human spirit and creativity and curiosity and things like that. So there's a kind of a fine line between like letting any employee do anything they want and constraining them to the company policy. So I think that the companies that will have the trust part built into the platform will fare much better than the ones without, especially when it comes to what will happen in 2027, which will be that the companies will be liable, the vendors will be liable in some capacity for legal claims against them when agents make mistakes, because it's got to happen. There's going to be something happening there. Laws will have to be addressed. So I'm pro Terrence on, yes, in the platform, anti appendage on top of it, and that's my answer.
Yeah, John, great point, John. And I'm also recalling an earlier point you made about the role of agents affecting scale. I think an appropriate analog, something that we've been looking at Adobe, is we recently, in the context of scale, more sort of in the Gen AI versus the agentic space, we introduced a product called Gen Studio for performance marketers. Like, how do you dramatically increase the people that are actually able to produce content that is publishable, that is on brand? So the risk is still there that you're giving people kind of the keys to the kingdom, maybe that haven't historically had them, either to respond with information or to present something that is in fact representing your brand. And so in that product, in the context of inserting trust into a meaningful layer of that process, it is a series of safeguards where you're saying we'll allow this new generation of content creators or responders to respond or to kind of activate in this particular space. You can generate content with these templates, do this here. But not only that, there's also then an agentic ability where you're actually doing a brand check on anything before it goes public. So I think we'll be asking agents to not only be sort of the enablers, but then also kind of the overseers. And then completely agree with Terrence that in some cases, we're just not ready to take the human out of the loop in the context of protection and safeguarding. But there are some pretty powerful methods that are already in market where we're inserting the trust and the mechanism to ensure that things are compliant and safe for the brand, or in some cases for the consumer before they go public.
All right. We had like a kind of an interesting conversation breakout in the comments here. I want to make sure I pull up the right. All right. So it started with Anand, who was on right before you guys, talk about food for thought. Should customers pay more for AI or AI enabled capabilities if it's truly built to be more effective? And then a panelist for tomorrow that'll be coming up, Maxim from Sugar CRM, says no, Anand, because we don't have a product without AI. There is nothing to sell without. And then we even got a little more around this. Or will this become the table stakes and expected in the future now? Given if you do not have these offerings, you will be likely left behind. One of the creators versus the winners. Whoever wants to kind of address that, feel free to go for it. It's interesting kind of conversation that broke out.
Yeah, the Oracle perspective has been from pretty early on within our Fusion applications area. Fusion AI is embedded, right? So customers just get it as part of their licenses. There are some premium tiers, right? If you do some special things and some custom things, you go into that. But the AI we ship is embedded in the product, right? And we're doing that because we want everyone to unlock the value. So kind of similar to Maxim's comment. I mean, AI is the product that's built in, not bolted on. And because everything we're doing is now AI centric, we figure, current customers have to come along for the ride. So let's do that. And anyone shopping for software today is looking for that future proofing of what am I going to buy, right? They want it to have AI in the box. So that's the approach we've taken. Obviously, there are a lot of different approaches from a lot of us.
Anthony, you say you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, great question, and great input from the audience. I think the fact of the matter is, the world of per seat licenses is running out very quickly, because if the whole view of this is that either we're going to save people 20% of their workload on a daily basis, which means a company can grow 5x over, can grow double its size over 5 years very easily without increasing its workforce. Where's the increase in license revenue going to come from for the development companies that are investing all their R&D? So I think we're going to see a lot more of licensing based on outcomes. And if you've got an AI agent that can replace 500 seats because it can be that productive, then there's got to be some way of recouping that and just bundling it for free in the software, which if we go back to the invisible UI, doesn't exist that much except to run the governance and the process execution success. Then we're going to have to rethink pricing and modeling very deeply, and I think that's something that's going to hit many companies end of 26, 27.
I have a question, if Paul, unless you want to go before.
No, I'm good.
All right. I mean, how can we not address the bubble everybody is talking about? Are we in it? Are we approaching it? What will be the impact of it? I would love for anybody who wants to take this question. How do you view the current situation where we are with AI? And if you do think there's some kind of bubble, how do you as vendors look to address it in 2026?
Somebody asked me this yesterday, and I said, well, the bubble, there is a bubble. I mean, there's got to be some kind of bubble. it's kind of centered on NVIDIA and the amount of GPUs it's selling, and the support, the access to the GPUs and the workloads on the GPUs, and then NVIDIA invests in the companies that are using that are investing in NVIDIA. So like there's a central part of the hardware infrastructure, the hyperscaler kind of level, and the software companies are going to be, there's collateral around there, of course. But as far as it being a bubble, I think this is so rapid. Like if you looked at the Gartner hype cycles, I think this is such a compressed hype cycle. It's like a year was what 10 years ago hype cycle would have been. And if there is a bubble that's going to pop, it's going to reinflate very fast. It's going to have a much more mature outlook very quickly. But so it may not even appear to be a bubble. It may be just like a go up, go down type thing if you're looking at the stock market. But I'm not an investor at all. I'm just thinking of like there's going to be a lot more use of agents, and there's going to be a lot more money flowing to vendors and from customers and vice versa. Like it's going to continue to go because there's going to be so much scale that comes up. And I don't know if I can answer the bubble question directly, but I think that it's going to be short-lived if there is one.
All right, let me go to Marco. I think you wanted to jump in on this one.
Yeah, well, John took the words out of my mouth. I mean, all of us on this call have been doing this for a while, and we've seen bubbles before. This is not the first bubble, and it won't be the last. But out of these bubbles come something enduring, an enduring technology. I mean, many of us were around for the .com boom. Remember that? And what came out of that? Salesforce. Well, originally Salesforce.com. John, you remember it. I was with you at the time, back in the day. And that is an enduring, obviously Salesforce is an enduring technology that came out of the .com bubble, kind of created the subsequent cloud bubble, frankly. So there may be a bubble in terms of valuations and things like that. There's some crazy private market valuations going on, but I completely agree with John on this one. I mean, this technology will endure. This will be a permanent part of our lives and our businesses, and it will indeed continue to improve very rapidly.
Yeah.
All right. And Terrence.
Yeah. I think these two, like this question and the previous one, are related, right? Which is pricing should never be because this feature, right? And I'll build on Marco and John, which was, I remember that, software will die, and everyone had a big debate about it, a couple of decades ago, and it turned out software as a service, and there was tremendous benefits. And just remembering to prove value. That's why I said earlier at the beginning of this call, it's about the ROI. But with any disruption that John just pointed out, there is recalibration, and not everyone is sure. And sure, there's a over or under expectation. But ultimately, if you keep your focus on demonstrating value and asking the customer if we've demonstrated, is there a fair exchange of value? That's what will shake out. But not everyone will make it. I don't want to pretend that everyone will make it. But if you keep focusing on what's important, which is focus on getting the customers the right experience and supporting the orgs and delivering that experience efficiently for scale, that will always set you right.
Well, you know what's really interesting is our previous panel kind of said the same thing about there are going to be huge winners and a lot of the people who won't make it because there's a lot of money going in. There's a lot of interest in it, but only a few are really going to hit it big. And that's why even I think Scott from Norwest is saying they're even starting to do investing at the A level or even, did he say even before that? Yeah. So it's
seed.
Yeah, they're actually starting to look at seed investing, which is something I know they weren't doing a couple of years ago. So it's really fascinating to see what's going on and where CRM. Let me ask you guys this, and this will be it. Do you see CRM? I'll say CRM CX customer engagement as a driver, as a thing that will help shape what the direction of AI, or is it just going to go along for the ride because it's such a mass? It's going to impact everything. But do you see like somewhere, some portion of it being driven by what's going on in business software?
Well, I think so. Absolutely, Brent, because reality is businesses don't exist, public sector organizations don't exist unless they're serving a citizen or a customer. Whether you want to call it customer experience, citizen experience, CRM, companies don't have to do accounting. They don't need a supply chain. They don't need an inventory unless they're doing something to do with a customer. And so that's the driving force. AI is to improve everything from initial lead to that long-term value lifetime for the customer. And that touches everything in a business suite.
Okay. Marco, you wanted to jump in here.
Yeah, I think Brett Weigel said it earlier, and he said it well. A lot of what is going to happen in the near future in AI is going to be driven by the customer service side of CRM, especially as we start to automate these contact centers and as the voice and omni models start to become more mature and cheaper. And so, no, I don't think CRM is just going for the ride. I think it will indeed be driving more and more of this AI usage and its maturity.
Okay, Adam wants to jump in.
You're on mute, Adam.
Oh, yeah, you're on mute, by the way.
It would be helpful. Thank you. Appreciate the question. I have some college-age kids, and it's always interesting for me to kind of take the temperature based on the way that they're using technology. And I basically have my kids telling me now they don't Google anything, right? They're using GPTs almost exclusively. I think the businesses that we represent and that our customers will have to respect the modalities through which their customers and consumers want to interface with them. So on that front, I think absolutely the customer experience, our ability to understand and manage customer relationships will drive a new transformation and an evolution here. And I really appreciate Terrence's perspective through this whole session about like what's old is new again. And I think when we look at what we're fundamentally trying to accomplish as a business, when we're trying to present our products and services in an effective way to our customers that hits their care factor in a way that makes them want to invest, I think that those are going to be some of the, if not currently, those will become core use cases driving this transformation.
I can't believe we're already at the top of the hour. This was a nonstop information-packed conversation. And it was a conversation. I really appreciate you guys for feeling comfortable enough to just talk about this stuff and we get a chance to kind of be along for the ride. Paul, anything you want to say before we let them go?
Yeah, well, thanks. Obviously, I mean, you guys are awesome. And I know most of you for a very long time, and always appreciate you, my friends. Besides being colleague, so the one thing that's fascinating, though, I will say that came out in both of the conversations today is the fundamentals is still the fundamentals, right? No matter what, no matter how much we talk about AI, no matter how much we talk about anything else, the fundamentals remain the fundamentals, no matter what. And from personally, I mean, I'm retired, so what do I care? But but it's good to hear. Let's say it is good to hear.
Yeah, we're a little over, so we're not going to keep you. But thanks so much for doing this. You make this a tradition unlike any other. Quite honestly, I really like this.
Absolutely fabulous.
Thanks to Terrence, Adam, Brett, Marco, Anthony. By the way, Marco and Anthony are both over in the UK, right? I know, Anthony, you are. Marco, you're in London, right?
I'm in our London office at this very moment, just visiting with some customers here in London and elsewhere in Europe.
Well, thank you guys, both of you guys, for staying up that working with us. John, 4 in a row, man. Can we do 5 maybe next year?
You ready? Okay.
I'm not leaving this channel. I'll be right here.
Not even going to leave the chair. He doesn't.
We keep him in the green room for a year.
All right, guys. Thanks again. Have a happy holiday, and I think you all will probably be receiving an email, kind of a save the date kind of.
Yeah,
email.
you'll be all seeing it soon.
Yeah.
Save the date, March 11th and 12th, ladies and gentlemen. Well, gentlemen in this case, but. March 11th and 12th, IRL 2026, Atlanta, Tech Village, Buckhead.
All right, guys. Thanks again. Really great having you.
Thanks, Paul.
Bye, guys.
All right. Let me clear the stage. This is quite the stage, man. We had so many
know.
people. It's
We're
kind of
pretty-
hard. StreamYard isn't really. Oh, I cut them off. I've
Yeah.
been putting that button, like trying to get everybody
I
out.
want to fix the interface for us too.
Oh, I got the wrong.
With double verticals.
There we go. All right. Woo, we made it. That was awesome. Let's bring our, what do we call them? Crack crew?
Crack
or analyst
team.
No, we don't want to say crack analyst. That doesn't sound too good.
No, okay. How about Ace? The Aces.
The Aces.
We'll bring the Aces on.
We really have the Aces because look who is joining us right now.
There he is.
Got done with his analyst call. All right.
Yeah,
So-
I heard you guys wanted me, so I cleared my schedule.
He's probably going to say now. Patrick in the end's going to announce we were supposed to show up at Westminster's talk show.
Oh wow.
Coming up
All right.
soon.
I don't know how you guys follow that, but here's Mike and Shashi.
Hey, everybody.
That guy.
Hey, Patrick.
Now that you called us crackpots, Brent, I'm not sure what we're going to
Well, better to be crackpots than crackheads. So
or potheads or crackheads.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Well, potheads are kind of whale.
All right.
The white whale.
Right. First of all, look at this comment. Incredible panel. Thank you so much for Paul and Brent. Top tier. All right. This has been
Thank
top
you,
tier.
Jordan. Thanks for being here, Jordan. Stick around for these three lovely people.
And Christine has just been waiting around for Patrick, apparently. So, all right. So you guys sat in, heard everything that was going on with that panel. Let's get some initial thoughts. Whoever wants to go first.
I can go. I have something that's really burning up in my head a little bit.
Okay.
Want some
I
water?
think Anthony said this, like whenever technology changes, what many enterprises try to do is take their old processes and try to fit it into the new technology. It was a very profound thought. Just wanted to get it out of the way.
Is your head not burning anymore since you got that out?
Right.
Sure you're good.
His hair can grow back.
What does Patrick have to say? Did Patrick catch any of that?
Oh, with 10 woofs.
10 woofs.
Yeah.
Ooh, and a face lick.
And lips and a lick.
Oh,
Patrick was talking about what Terrence had to say about, it gets back to the basics of how people are actually going to use this stuff and how they're going to get value. And, the more treats he gets from an AI, the happier he is. So that really resonated with him. But, I mean, seriously, I think whether you take great comments from everybody, but getting back to sort of what's old is new again, you've got to be able to deliver value. You've got to be able to prove that value, whether it's to an end user from a productivity perspective or really transformationally from a business operations perspective. And I think what a lot of folks have struggled with is getting from the some basic AI gets me a little bit more productive to I'm really being able to move to these broader kind of business changes. And that's what everybody's going for. But we heard a lot of good points about data and process, both in the comments and from the panel, that I think are really important as we think about how do we really not just get some value from AI, but really deliver on the kind of value that the market's promising today.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say I tied this back to something I said earlier, but I think maybe even more so, and that is we're really not going to be talking that much about the applications. And frankly, I think a lot of businesses aren't going to replace those applications for quite a while, because what we're going to focus on is data and that integrated data layer, whatever that looks like. And there's a bunch of different ways you could do it, from federated to whatever. But that's one. And then the other is this idea of this agentic platform. Governance, orchestration, ethics, all those things we've got to build in. And that is where the progress is going to come from. And actually, one of the things, did a post or a report not long ago, trends for this next year, of course, because we always do, right? But one of the things that came up, and I'm really hot on this right now, is this idea of customer memory systems. One of the things that's always broken down with us in the past, partially because of the application silos, is handoffs and consistency from a customer perspective were just painful. I mean, really, let's admit it. They still are. They've never gotten that much better. So this idea of continuous memory, customer memory throughout all the process, all the workflow that you're doing. I think that's absolutely critical, and that's one of the biggest investments and one of the biggest advances that we're starting to see come together. Fix the data, have that orchestration and governance layer, and then on top of that, this idea of memory that's persistent throughout all the interactions. So think of it that way, not applications.
One thing that struck me a little bit is how you had a really wonderful panel, a lot of great insights, but all of them were very similar in thought. That's either a good thing or a dangerous thing. I mean, the reason I say that is like, if everybody's doing the same thing, then who's leading, right? That's one. I like what you said, Rebecca, about, Terence saying, like, hey, we'll just use AI to solve our customers' problems that exist today. I mean, that was a great statement from most of them. One thing that I can predict is spreadsheets are going to go away. I don't know who in the world says that I love spreadsheets, right?
No one I want to know.
That's true. But these are all use cases where people are struggling already and AI can do better. I don't remember if it was this panel or the previous one where, or I think, Paul, you said this. Agentic AI has to get it as accurate as possible. I mean, we don't want, especially in healthcare and things like that. And by the way, somebody posted about needing AI for care for all of us. So we can't say like, hey, the doctor, he gets it 75% right all the time.
Yeah, that's not good.
I mean, that's the part that actually.
No, I got to post this comment. Come on, man. Come on.
Does that surprise you at all, though? Come on.
I got to take everything back I said about the guy, if that's the case. Christine, you're dreaming of spreadsheets? Really?
Going
away.
Oh, okay.
That's a Ray Bradbury novel.
Anand threw me off so badly, I misread that. Okay. All right. Now, she's a Prince fan, so I should have known better.
Yeah. So here's the thing, though. So on the one hand, to your point, Shashi, I was encouraged by the fact in one regard that they all thought the same, which was the blocking and tackling part. It's still the fundamentals. It's still the fundamentals. I was glad to hear every single one of them support that. I mean, because if they didn't say that and they're just getting caught up in AI hype, then I would be concerned, given that they're all leaders at their companies. Secondly, the thing I was saying about accuracy, I mean, I really want to get you guys' take on that, because it really it didn't disturb me, because look, I've been dealing with Claude for months now, and I like Claude's my favorite of all of them.
Me too.
But I kept noticing how lazy Claude was, right? And it's lazy. I mean, that's the way I define it. I'm giving it a human attribute, but ultimately it's basically fuzzy logical is what it is. It's basically saying, well, approximately, here's other things just like this that you might want to look for, because this is the way most of the time I see it, right? In a manner of speaking. And that's not sufficient. It's not even sufficient working with me, much less sufficient in a business environment that's defined by regulation and governance, right? So I'm curious as to, I happen to think, because keep in mind though, on the one hand, the back end is where, I'm calling it the back end, is where the agentic part's going. I'm not dealing with agentic AI. I'm dealing with Gen AI, conversational AI. That's what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with the front end. I'm dealing with the agent that I'm having a conversation with to go and tell the other agents to go do what they do. He's basically my intermediary, and my conversational interaction. So him getting it wrong, though, means that he effectively goes to the other agent and said, yeah, go look for something like this, right? And that doesn't work. Now, on the other hand, you have agents themselves from the back end that are self-learning too. So he's also potentially providing them with really bad learning experience there. Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering how you think that gets dealt with.
See, I mean, I think the problem with that is, and I hear this all the time, if you just look at Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, you've you're not looking at an enterprise system. You're looking at
No.
a consumer system, right? So if you think of an enterprise system and go back to what I said, orchestration, and that's a big part of fixing the data, orchestration, and actually, you know, we hear terms like RAG and graph RAG, and there's a whole bunch of different ways you can give context, but that's the rest of it. And that's the part that's missing when you're out in Claude. Although I will tell you, now that Claude has memory, I'm seeing this improve dramatically over time, because more and more Claude remembers the things that I've told it before, and it learns from those and gives me the things that it knows I want. So, but I think in an enterprise system, you've got this whole platform piece that's different, and it's providing the right sort of enterprise context. That's one. The other thing is, and you'll see this when you talk to anybody who talks about implementing agentic systems, you've got to have some way to assess performance on continuous basis, not one-time basis. And as soon as you see a performance issue, you pull that back, and you may either you change the autonomy level, how much humans are involved, or maybe you have to reboot that agent. I mean, whatever it may be, but we've got to have this transparency into how did that agent get to the point where it made that mistake. And then we have to define how it fails, and we have to define what we do when it does fail. And I think that's the difference in just saying ChatGPT gave me hallucinated a bad answer. Yep, it did. To what the enterprise system's going to even you know, I have a local setup, a language model with a UI front end and a RAG setup with all the data that I have in my Google account and all this stuff. That one I use if I want to ask questions about my stuff, because it has all of that context that doesn't exist out in the ChatGPT land.
By the way, Shashi, I just have to address Shashi. Don't hold your breath, man.
I'm going to go back to something that Paul said for a second, if I can, which is sort of the responses that you get, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT or whoever it is.
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah, all of the 5 majors.
I think we have to talk a little bit more about how these pieces that are going to become commodities are built, because right now they all sort of behave like the overconfident, over-enthusiastic intern. Right?
And a bit sycophantic too, let's be honest.
But it's right. But they're also lazy, to Paul's point, not willing to go to that next sort of level. And to Mike's point, I think we got to think about, if that's what we're using under the hood, what systems do we put on top? Or the internship coordinator to make sure things don't really go badly.
No, you're right.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right.
Kevin Nix, what was the company? Kevin Nix had a company, Rocket. What do you call it? Rocket
something.
It wasn't Rocket Science.
No,
I kept calling it that.
No, it was something that didn't quite make sense to me, but
no, it was funny. It was actually kind of funny. Rocket Surgery.
That's
Rocket Surgery. So
that's why I said it didn't make sense.
Yeah. So, but basically, what it was I think he still has it, but I think he's putting it on hold for a while. But it was basically QA on AI, and it was actually really, really a smart idea. The way Kevin never goes wrong with these things. He's like amazing. But it was actually kind of goes to that. It kind of goes to wait. The guy isn't, in effect, what he could do with it. And I'm looking at it from the consumer side would be, let's say I say, hey, I need to find out how to cancel this. And instead he would say, I'd query it. The AI would start working on a relative answer, a typical, well, like that, you might want to look for this. And it would stop it and say, no, he's asking specifically. In effect, that's the kind of thing it would do, among other things. So, I mean, that kind of goes to what you're talking about, Rebecca, which is the intern management, right? Because that's actually what Kevin's trying to do, I think.
Yeah.
And if you think, smart. If you think of it like, and I know there are definitely people who don't like this analogy, but I think it's the most effective way to make businesses think about it correctly, and that is digital workforce, human workforce, hybrid workforce. And if you think of it that way, what do you do with human workers? You specify a job description, you look at their skills and background and capabilities, but you don't just then put them in your business and say, okay, go on and do whatever you want. You have performance reviews, you monitor their performance, you set goals, you do all these things. You have to do the same things with an agent, whether it's fully autonomous or partially autonomous or not autonomous at all. And there's got to be, that structure's got to exist around all of that to make it function. And I think we're making a real mistake. And this is kind of typical in tech, right? Oh, this is a great new thing. Let's just turn it on. We haven't, prepared the organization for it. We haven't prepared our systems for it. We haven't done all the other work that has to be done to make this effective.
Great point. Just to follow up on that, I think most companies and enterprises are forgetting about training their people. They just think like, hey, you use ChatGPT, come on, let's start doing that.
You must know everything now. So
yeah. And Paul, you made a great point about all of these LLMs are lazy. I'll tell you again, practically, why I was trying to do this over the weekend. By the way, just shout out to my blog. It's called shashi.co. So I'm trying to use it to say like, hey, let me style it a little bit better so that it looks presentable than my 20-year-old blogger theme, right? And it kept giving me such bad answers, like it wasn't good styling at all. So guess what I did? I said, I'm sorry, Sundar Pichai will be angry that he spent billions on you, Gemini. You need to do better. And immediately came an answer with such a great style. I mean, it still needs work, but that's what I would have said if I was angry, right?
No, I get it. I absolutely get it. Look, honestly, I'm going to tell you another story too, because it's just funny. So I've been working with Claude, and I'm doing all this big home automation project here, and I have a very complex home automation that involves like 800 entities, right? So I was building dashboards, and he uses a markup language called YAML. So I asked Claude to help me build the dashboards, and we're going for days on this thing. I mean, days, actual days of working with Claude, trying to get it right. And I got so frustrated at one point after about 4 days, I said to Claude, I spent $200 a year on you, but you know what I'm going to do? If you don't get it right on the next round, on this next iteration, I'm going to a different service. And it got it perfectly right.
Mm-hmm.
It literally got it right.
You provided motivation. See, that's just like a human employee.
Well, it's kind of weird. It was kind of weird. But the thing I have learned to do on this is, and it's fairly simple, is when it gives me a generic answer, I repeatedly tell it. And to your point, Mike, it does have memory because it remembers those 800 entities. And even if I ask them for a premium ice cream, it would remember it. But the thing I learned to do was say, no, I didn't ask you to be generic about this. I need you to specifically tell me about this. And then to your point, it gets sycophantish and apologizes and then goes and gets me what I need. But you have to tell it to be specific when in fact, even if the query is clear, it's still generic.
Did you have to go tell it to go sit in the stand in the corner? Look at it. I mean, what is going on here?
Paul, I noticed this the other day. I often will use ChatGPT to make cover images for my blog posts, and I noticed it started having this glitch a couple of weeks ago. I would ask for it, and then it would ask me 4,000 questions about what I told it, and I'm trying to answer the questions. Okay. After a while, I just got aggravated. I said, "This is ridiculous. Do the image the way you did it before with what I just told you." And guess what it did? It made the image and it was perfect.
I guess the question becomes, because that is obviously a problem, and it's a problem with literally all of the 5 biggest ones. How do you actually solve that? Because, and again, in the enterprise, and to your point, they're different, but at the same time, don't forget, remember all of us were talking about in 2005 and 6 about the consumerization of business, and usually then it was on the style of your phone, but nonetheless we were still talking about it for a reason. But that's still how people live, right?
Well, all this stuff is still built by people. Guess what? We're lazy at times. We need a stern talking to at times to do stuff.
Well, that's
why are we surprised? Why are we surprised when this stuff has to do it too? Because we're the one making this stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's just the function, but I do think that idea of the complete orchestration layer, complete orchestration platform, governance, all these things, that's really important because that gives you the enterprise grade that you don't have if you're just trying to use one of the current popular consumer grade models.
But here's the thing, is it going to be like a non-agent building company that becomes that orchestration? Because all these big companies want to be the ones that control the overall, right? Not just to use theirs, but they want to be able to know when you're using others, or be the ones to say which ones will you use. And it feels like, is there actually going to be a company that comes along that these other companies are going to say, all right, we'll let you be the ringleader, or we'll let you be the layer that controls which agents you use from which vendors? I don't know how that comes about, because most of these companies want too much control over as much of the process that they can get, and don't want to give up anything, that any kind of central power.
But what they're already starting to learn is that companies aren't going to throw out everything they have. And so you're going to need multiple agents. You're going to have a way to coordinate multiple agents, and they're going to go across all those different, vendor silos, if you want to think of it that way. And I think that's the reality. I don't think there's going to be one major, platform winner. I think there's going to be a lot of different platforms and a new standard that takes MCP and fixes the issues with it and creates a new way to connect all those things with supervisory agents. And there'll be companies will choose whichever one is the one they choose. Like there'll be several choices.
So would it be somehow built at the hyperscaler level so that it's part of the foundation before it even goes to the application folks? Say, hey, you got to use this, or it's because we're talking about, like, I think we had the same kind of conversation with the API stuff. Like, every company has the APIs for their apps, and every customer there's wants to use both the apps and integration with each other.
Yeah,
I don't see how this is any different.
Well, it's not in some ways, Brent, but the other one is, like, if I have autonomous agents that automatically manage those integrations, so that it sets the right integration for the right tool for the right thing the agent's trying to do. I mean, that idea, even down to agents that manage the data quality, agents that all of these things, you can automate some of those infrastructure things, and it starts to function much differently than what it does today.
I want to give
I want to see that happen.
Rebecca, do you go first? After that, I'll.
No.
Well, I mean, I think everybody's hot and bothered about the orchestration layer, because we recognize that whoever controls that decides how much AI is called and from where, and who has the biggest piece of the pie, which brings us around to the big question is, how does pricing influence all of this, right? If I'm providing the orchestration layer, do I now have a chargeback like I would have between P&Ls in the business? Do I have chargebacks at the orchestration layer to determine which LLM or which agent I'm calling for what kind of task and why? There's a whole pricing piece to this that hasn't been out yet either.
I think there's a reason too why a lot of enterprise customers don't want a singular thing to rule the roost.
Right.
They don't want each vendor having that much control, where the overall thing they want is, I think I've heard it said time or two today, the end-to-end workflow, which crosses over applications and vendors. And they want to be able to control that as much as possible, I think.
Yeah. But the agents, if the agents become more and more specialized, they're handling little pieces of that workflow across it. So there'll be handoffs, and those handoffs may be from, all from the same vendor, or they may cross 4 vendors as they go through that process. And I think the point is, if it works the way that we envision this right now, that gets to be something that we don't have to worry about, because that orchestration layer with the agents is actually doing a lot of that work for you.
I want to make 2 points. One is
Wait a minute, Shashi, you just wanted to make 1 point before. Now it's 2?
Now it's 2.
No, Jordan Lake, what she posted is very, very crucial.
Let me bring it up for you.
Yeah,
there you
there's
go.
a lot of friction in companies because employees don't understand it. They don't know how to use it, and they fear for their jobs. So I think Bill McDermott in one of the briefings talked about training that even ServiceNow does for its own employees. Hopefully they also do it for clients. Now, the second point here is, like, we may not need agents all the time. What we have lost track of is machine learning is not new. Companies have been doing it for 10, 15 years. And the right way to do it is, like most of you have said, data analyze, predict, and then generate. I think now everybody is jumping into generate first.
Yeah.
The analyze and predict part of it is so important, and that doesn't have to do with any like employee facing friction, right? Like what is easier now is for people who are not data scientists to get the data as long as the data is clean, right? That I think has democratized it a little bit more, and that doesn't need an agent. It just needs you to stop being on a spreadsheet.
Why you keep going back to the spreadsheet, Shashi? What is go? By the way, shout out to Anand. That's what we call a bar, a company that treats AI the same as a colleague loses. Let's hope that's true. I don't know if it is or not. But I just like the sound of it. All right, we getting close. Yeah, we're gonna close shop here. It's been a great day. I mean,
yeah,
lots of really great conversations right from the beginning
really
through the investor panel, you guys after the investor panel, the Big Six panel now, in the comments section. I mean, great comments, great thoughts, and that's kind of all we could ask for. Really, is great comments and comments on screen and off, and you guys definitely provided a lot of that. So
you nailed it.
I'm trying to see any housekeeping I can do. Oh yeah, let me do a few housekeeping. I'm just glad I was able to say it and not mess it up like I usually do. All right. No, I don't want that. Why did that happen?
Messed it
That's
up.
what I want. We are so excited that we finally got Steve Miranda to join us on the Playaz. After 20 years, begging and pleading, you know, it is what it is. But December the 8th, it's like it's almost like an early birthday present for the venerable Paul Greenberg, because I believe your birthday is the next day, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's
so this is good. I'm going to market this as Steve's birthday present to the venerable Paul Greenberg.
No, it's his birthday present to the CRM Playaz heading to their 17th anniversary.
Maybe he'll bring a cake. I guess that would be asking a little too much.
We could ask him just to restock the green one with cronuts, right? New ones.
Oh, okay. This is the final housekeeping. I got it right. All right. I don't know why I have a mental block for that, but I certainly do. So hey, the show ain't over permanently. It's just over for the day. But tomorrow is our second, or I guess the third panel. Our second vendor panel, mostly, mid-market SMB kind of folks here. But it's a stacked lineup, Paul. What do you want to say about this?
Well, one, everybody here, let's say, has a definitive POV, everybody. And each company, every one of these companies is one way or the other been fully invested in AI, and often in most of the cases of these companies, I can't speak for all of them, have started AI long before Gen AI was around. I can certainly speak for multiple ones of those. This one's going to be really interesting, and we have some returners, but we'll wait on that till tomorrow. Who's returning for more than their first rodeo, and some new people too. So this one's exciting, and this is a very smart group of people. I know 5 of the 6 well, and one guy I know of. I don't know him well. I won't say anything.
I think I know who that is.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. It's always great to get insights from the vendors and folks that are kind of senior leaders at the vendors, just like it was today with we call them the Big Six. But these are also very important vendors in the industry, coming at it from different perspectives, focusing on different areas, but all of it impacts CRM and CX and customer engagement. So that's tomorrow noon to 1, and then after that we do have an analyst panel. I'll put that up later, but the Brohammer is going to be on there. Rebecca's co-host for the Crunch, David Smith. Constellation's own Martin Schneider, I think that's it, right? Or is there
Right? Yeah, there's a possible fourth, but we're waiting on hearing.
So two more hours of really great stuff in the industry. What's gonna happen in CRM in 2026? We'll start and put some clips up. Maybe if I don't fall asleep, I might put one up tonight. I don't know. There's so much to choose from. I mean, there is a lot of meat in this. So
you're not kidding.
I'm gonna have to use my AI, my Opus, and my Minvo, and all those things to try to pull out all the nice little clips, because there's a lot here.
We've got classic clips, leading with, of course, Rebecca's evenly distributed clip.
Wow, I really like that. That was the phrase of the whole day. I will say that. I think you might have got it from Patrick, though. I have to be totally honest.
You know, he's the brains behind the operation.
All right. So on behalf of Rebecca and Patrick, Shashi and Mr. Fawcett, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz, and we'll be back tomorrow
at noon
Eastern. Goodbye.
Bye.